Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about approval system, but in this case specifically for reimbursements. So the idea here is that sometimes you receive maybe from a person or from a project request with lots of different items. And sometimes like 4 out of 5 are okay, but one it's not or needs revision or something like this. So the idea here is a way for you to, instead of deny everything because you only have one that's not working, it's a way for you to actually approve 4 out of 5 because four are okay. And then we are going to also show you how to can you schedule payments for each expense that you may have, because sometimes it's not even possible to pay right now. Maybe you have a guidance inside your company that says that you pay for costs, I don't know, in 30 days or after a week, or you can just define these rules and then you can schedule them in order to not forget that you need to do this. So I think that's the main idea. But Cruz, can you just explain a little bit more about the product? Who should use this? How is this useful? Why is this built in this specific format? And everything else that you think it could be something that's nice for people to understand about this specific app that we have built for them.
Cool. The key word here is itemized. So the idea here is to create an approval system that deals with items in a request. The main problem people have while trying to build like BPMs or reimbursement platforms with other no-code tools is that you usually don't have such a granular control of items. You cannot approve one specific item and then reject the other one, deny the other one, and then have that automatic sum of every item. Usually, there are some workarounds that are not ideal in other platforms, but here in Jasper, you could create it in a way that allows for almost infinite items in the same request, right? It's a scalable structure, and then you can go item by item, approving, denying, and then approve the request with that partial approval or full approval if everything is compliant with your guidelines, right? Um, so there are three things that are the main parts of this template, which is basically, like I say, itemized items, requests actually, the confirmation email. So whenever you finish, when you approve a request, the person is going to receive an email confirming the amount that was approved and also the date for the payment, right? And also how to schedule this payment, right? Because like you said, there's probably a guideline in your company, and you say when a request is approved, it's going to be reimbursed up to 7 days from now. So you have this kind of deadline for approving things, and so we can have this automatically. So you approve, and then automatically it's scheduled for a week from now. But you'll also have the dashboard that's going to show you. Um, when you have to pay and also have some kind of alerts, right? You can see that I have a payment here that's scheduled for the 16th, but if I move this to the 7th, that's 2 days before today, you can see that it gives me this conditional call or warning, right? It's red, it's because I missed the deadline for that payment. But if I had already paid, then it would remove the color. So that's something that's already done, right? So let's go back. And also payments for today, it's going to be green here. So you can just look at it and see that you have to pay something today, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on. But just to show everything in action, right? I think it's the most important part. So we can think about this as a standard like form for requesting reimbursement. And the idea here is that you could have this as a public form, but ideally you want this for logged users because then you have the person who created automatically. So we can create a new request. Here I'm using a write type panel, but this could be a open window here. I can show you guys how to set this up later. So you have here submit new request, then you give a general description with the reasoning, right? So business trip to Florida or something like this. So the person has to justify why they're submitting this new request. And then you have the items. And you can see here that I can create as many items as I want. And this is a big upside of doing things in Jaster. You usually don't have this sort of structure in other no-code tools, right? So let's say that for the first item, it's gas. So gas
And you
stop.
don't need to know how a relational database works in order to use it. Basically, what you're doing here is automatically connecting one record with many other records. And it's pretty simple to just build a form like this. And you don't need to worry later on how this data is actually connecting itself and so on. And it will be automatically organized for you and for your company. So one interesting thing that Fernando is doing there as well is that he can select how many items. Like maybe he has one item, two items, 10 items. And what we see is that sometimes clients, when they migrate from other tools, they have to kind of build like a fixed structure with X amount of items. So they have like for item one, for item two, for item 10. And then there's always a new request with, I don't know, 11 items. And then this person is not able to do this, or then they need to go there and add another item. So this is the uh, structurally more efficient way to do this with a connected table. That's the way that we are doing right now. But usually people just create more and more columns because they only are able to fill out one form with one table at a time. Here we are actually filling out two tables at the same time and multiple records at the same time.
Exactly. So I'm going to show you guys this structure later so you guys can try to build it yourselves so you understand how this is all working. But like Banach said, this is actually two different tables, and it's very important that they are constructed as such. But we're going to explain that later. But we're submitting a new request. So we have this request with like description, business trip to Florida, and we're adding an item here. So gas stop in Miami. So it was like $50. We could submit, upload a receipt here, for example. So if I have one more item, so let's say food. So dinner at station, and then you have like $30 and then another receipt. So I could keep adding items, right? So this is the deal here is that I could have infinite, almost an infinite number of items, right? I could have two items like I'm doing here, or I could have like 20. It doesn't matter because the structure is scalable. It's more flexible. So let's submit this. So we've just created, and you can see here that it created here business trip to Florida, and we have both items here, and you can see something cool is that it's automatically calculating the total amount for that request. So we have $30 for food, $50 for gas, and it's calculating the requested amount. So the idea here is that the person in the finance team or whoever has to approve these requests is going to look at this. It's going to look at the description. It's going to look at the receipts, and they're going to think about this and say, this is justified, this is not justified, this is in accordance to corporate guidelines. So we can start approving things, right? So I can come here to status and approve gas, for example, and you can see that approved went to $50, and the bar showing the percentage approved also went up a little bit. So I can come here to food and click on approved, and it's going to go to 100%, or I could go to deny, and it's going to go back to 63%. So it's automatically calculating how much you're approving of that specific request. So that's really cool because you can have, like we said, partial approvals, right? So one problem that people have all the time in other platforms is that someone submits a request with 20 items, and two of them are out of specification, but you cannot approve partially. So everything is denied. So the person has to submit everything again. Then you're delaying payment, and that's kind of like all sorts of trouble, right? So you can see here that I have open requests, right? So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to approve gas and I'm going to deny food, right? So I'm going to click on approve because it's partially approved. Maybe it was all denied, so I could just click on deny. And it went away because it's not open anymore. It's approved, so it's not on this table anymore. And you can see that it came here to the calendar, which are next payments, right? And also to the payment log. So you can see here that I have two items for the 16th. If I click on this, it's the $50 that I've approved, and it says that I have to pay this by the 16th. So I have this calendar showing me the next payments, so I can schedule this for the future and keep looking at this to see if I paid it or not. So if we're in the 16th, I can look at this, say, okay, I have to pay Fernando for $50. I can come here and click on paid, and then if I click on save, it vanished from the calendar, but it's still in the payment log, and I could also download a report here. So if I have to see everything that I paid in reimbursements this month, I could do it as well, right? And I can see all of this information. One other thing that I'd like to show you guys, just wait a minute, is that, here you go. I've also received an email as soon as I clicked on approve. So regarding your ticket and then the code of the ticket, hi, here's the result for a submission. You've requested $80 of reimbursement, and that was a total approved of $50. You will be paid by, and then the date of the deadline of the payment, right? So,
Last
okay,
year, last week we showed how to use AI also to um, give like a reason why you have denied something. You could also add here like your policy for the company, and then automatically give them a reason why it was denied. Because this email in this case is for, of course, when it was approved, but you could also send one that's like it was rejected, and that's the reason why, like it's over $1,000 for dinner, I don't know, something like this. And it will be possible for the ticket to be the reasoning to be written by an AI, so you don't need to go there, because this is the kind of things that people usually, or they even type anything like, oh, it was denied because it was denied, or they just skip this field and then the person doesn't know why they were denied. So in this situation, it's interesting to have also AI or any other kind of automation to help you to give you more information for the person to approve this later as well.
exactly. So this is the usage of this template. So we're going to talk a little bit about structure. But you guys can see that it's fully functional, right? So you can submit a new request with as many items as you want. The idea here is that you're going to either approve or deny the individual items inside that request. And then if at least one item was approved, you can click on approve, and the person is going to receive an email saying how much they're going to receive and when they're going to receive it. Okay, so let's talk about structure. So if you wanted to build this, of course, that we're going to upload this as a template in our template store, so you guys can download it. But if you wanted to build something similar, if you wanted to build or this exactly template, how would you do this, right? So it's a very simple structure. So you can see that we only have two databases, right? So we have reimbursement requests, which is the information regarding the request itself, the main part of the request. So for the name, let's activate builder mode. For the name, we're attributing, we're assigning a random code right? It's this option here. So every time someone creates a new request, it's going to receive a random unique code. So the person doesn't have to fill out anything, and it's good to have unique IDs for requests, right? It makes it easier to track it. So we have automatic fields for requested and approved. We're going to move on and explain this a little bit later. So we also have a text field, a rich text field for the description of the request. We have a files field for attachments that I think I didn't put in the form, but I could have it. A date field for the payment date, a single option field for the status. You can see that the status is either new request or approved or denied. We have a switch field for indicating if that was paid or not. And we have a goal field that's comparing requested and approved, right? So you can see here, just click on edit, that I'm monitoring approved, and I'm comparing it to requested, and I'm returning it as a percentage. So you can see that I have 50 approved out of 80, and that's 63%. And we also have buttons, right, to deny the request. So if I open the automation here, you're going to see that all this button is doing is moving the record to deny. And I also have a similar button for approve, and that is doing something a little bit different, which is I'm sending an email to the person who created the record, right? I'm using a Google integration here, but you could also use Microsoft, for example. So I'm sending an email to the person who created the record. For subject, I'm using regarding your ticket and then the code. And then the message is, here's the result, here's how much you requested, here's how much you approved, and this will be paid by today plus 7 days, right? And I'm also doing something similar here for updating the record. So as soon as I click on approve, this is going to move to the status approved, and the payment date is going to be set to today plus 7 days. The way to manipulate dates is in our documents, in our documentation. There's a lot of ways to modify dates or format dates. So this is one of them. Okay, so this is the main part for the request. And then we also have the items themselves. So the items are a separate table, but you can see here that each item is connected to a request, right? So each item is pointing, is connected, is assigned to a specific request there in the reimbursement request table, right? So this means, and this is a many to one connection and to one connection. This means that I can have as many records, as many rows, as many items pointing to a specific request, right? So you can see that this request here has 2 items pointing to it. This one has 3, this one also has 3, and so on. Okay, so the other fields here are a title. So you're going to say what you're trying to reimburse, right? Gas, food, and so on. A short description here. So just to give a little bit of context, the amount for that specific item. So for example, here I have gas, $50. A files field for attachments, so for example, receipts and so on, and then a single option field for status. So we can either approve or deny this specific item. So if we go back to the request, you can also see here that I have the requested and approved fields in their roll-up fields. So their automatic sums or counts roll-up fields can be used in different manners, but in this case, it's an automatic sum of the items pointing to that request, right? So if I look at this request, I'm going to I'm going to search for all the items pointing to it, and I'm going to sum the amount. But also if I go here to approved, I'm getting all the items, I'm summing the amount, but also I'm only summing the ones that are approved. So this is how you do this automatic calculation, right? We're using sum up roll-up fields to make this calculation. I forgot to format it, so I'm going to move this to currency, save, and there you go. Okay, so basically that's the structure, right? We have the main request, then we have the items, and then we have the rollup fields to make this automatic calculation. Okay, so a couple of things that we have to explain. First of all, you can see here that when I try to create a new record, we have information from the main request, but also as many items as we want, right? So for this, we're using a super form. So I have a section here with the super forms that I created for this template. And you can see that I have this one to submit a new request. So I'm going to edit it. And then you can see that I have a title here. So submit the request, a description. I have a cover, but not a logo. So the cover is this image of money here. And the only things that I'm adding, that I'm creating regarding the main request is the description. You can see this here. But I also have the status because I always want new requests to go to new requests. So uh, I have the status field in this super form, but it's always predefined as new request, and I'm hiding the field from the person who's submitting it. If I unhide it, you can see that it's here, but I don't want the person to send it to approve, right? So I can just hide it, but have it predefined before. But then I have the most important part here, which is this one, which is called items. And for this one, I'm adding uh, a form block, which is the connected table. And because items point to requests, right? Because they're connected, because I'm using that end-to-one connection, I can use this block to add as many items as I want at the same time that I'm submitting the main request. So what I'm saying here is that the person is submitting the request, but they're also going to add as many items as they want, and they can submit the title, description, amount, attachments, and so on. I could also add status, but I don't want the person to select the status of approval, right? So this is the form, and basically by setting this up, I can add as many items as I want, right? So if I come back here to the main part, and this is the last part, we have this table, right? And you can see that in this table, I can see all open requests, and I can open it, right? I can uncollapse it to see all the reimbursement items pertaining to that request, right? So how am I doing this? I'm going to open this table component, and you can see that this table component is seeing the reimbursement request. So this is the main part of the request. So I'm seeing who created it, the description, how much was requested, how much I'm approving, the percentage bar, and the button for approving or denying. And there's all sorts of customization, uh, aesthetic settings here, right? But if I go down to the bottom part, I can see that I have the show connected records. And this is kind of like what we did in the form. Because we have this connection for items to a request, I can show the connected records. So I can show every item contained in that request, and I'm here in this table showing the title, the description, the amount, the attachments, and the status. So I can move this, right? So I can edit this. There you go. And you can see that it updates automatically, right? So by using the show connected records part, I can show tables that are connected to that main table. And you could do this with many things, right? It doesn't have to be only one thing. In other live streams, we did like project management, and you had tasks, but also you had like expenses for that project. So you could apply that same logic to more than two tables, right? And also one thing, I'm only showing in this table, you can see that I have a filter, only requests that are in the status new request. So as soon as I click on approve or deny, it's going to vanish from this table. So that's what happened before. So for example, let's say that for this team meeting at San Francisco, I'm denying the hotel room, I'm denying the breakfast. It's not in accordance to corporate guidelines. So instead of clicking approve, I'm going to click on deny, and this is going to just remove it from open request, right? And it's not going to payment or anything like that. And as a final part, we have the calendar that's looking at requests by payment date. I'm adding a filter here. I only want to see requests that are approved and not paid, right? So paid is false. And I also have the payments log. So I see who created the request, how much was approved, the payment date, and whether it was paid or not. I'm only going to show things that are approved here. I'm sorting by payment date, so I'm seeing things more in the future or more recent in terms of payment date. They're going to move to the top, right? And also, we have conditional colors. So things that I have to pay today and are not yet paid are going to be colored green. And things that I have to pay and it's in the past, I'm going to color it red, right? So let's collapse it. And if I wanted to download this as a report, I could just click on allow data download. So I could click on this, and then you can see that I have this icon to download the data here. So maybe I want to see all payments that were approved. So I can click on it. And then later on, I'm going to receive an email so I can download an Excel spreadsheet or a CSV spreadsheet. So that's basically it. We also have the filters here. So maybe I want to see everything that was paid to Fernando. So I can click on it and it's automatically going to filter it. Or maybe I only want to see things that are going to be paid next week, so I can filter it. And there's a lot of other stuff that we could do here. We could have a more analytical dashboard, but I think that here we're mainly concerned with this operational part of approving items, specific items inside a request, which is something that it's very hard or impossible to do in other platforms. And this is one thing that we talk to clients, we talk to a lot of people, and this is a constant need that they have, right? Because you don't want to be able to only approve things in full. So having this sort of itemized way of doing things can be quite handy.
Yeah, it's pretty important, especially if you have lots of different requests to approve, or and maybe sometimes you have like an SLA, internal SLA to just approve or reject something. That's why it's important for the person that's also operating and analyzing it to just uh, go as fast as they can, especially and then they don't need to be that worried to deny something as well. Because sometimes if you have like one item that it's not quite correct or expected and so on, then you need to maybe send an email, send in a Slack channel, and then they start a discussion, and then they forget about it, and then you didn't nothing has moved because of that. So if you want to actually do this as fast as possible, that's one really good way to do this. um, and we will be back with another live section here, building and showing a little bit about these solutions for you guys next week. So if you have any kind of requests, just send to us, and we will keep you posted of the product updates as well. Thank you. See you.